Aims and objectives of teaching social studies. Significance of the aims of teaching social studies. The aim and objectives of teaching social studies are necessary to point to the broad ideals and to enable us to selecting significant and meaningful content, teaching methods and techniques. They are the crux and key of the entire process of teaching and learning, and therefore they will have to be consonance with the broader aims of education. John V. Michaels has aptly stated the social studies are concerned with man and his interaction with his social and physical environment. They deal with human relationship. The central function of the social studies is identical with the central purpose of education. The development of democratic citizenship. The Education Commission 1964 to 66 outlined the role of social studies as the aim of teaching social studies is to help the students to acquire a knowledge of their environment, an understanding of human relationships, and certain attitudes and values which are vital for intelligent participation in the affairs of the community, the state, the nation, and the world. An effective program of social studies is essential in India for the development of good citizenship and emotional integration. General objectives of teaching social studies: acquaintance with the environment. Social studies acquaints the child with his past and present social, cultural, and geographical environment. Interest in socio-economic institutions. Social studies in schools helps the students to take a keen interest in the ways of people live through various socio-economic and political institutions. Appreciation of cultural heritage. The teaching of social studies enables children to appreciate India's rich cultural heritage. Shifting of material. The teaching of social studies enables the students to recognize and get rid of what is undesirable and antiquated, especially in the context of social change. Development of broad-mindedness. Social studies aims at ensuring that narrow, parochial, chauvinistic, and obscurantist tendencies are not allowed to grow in our pupils, and that they become tolerant and broad-minded. Aims and objectives of teaching social studies. Development of social commitment. Social studies endeavors to develop a will and ability in every pupil to participate in the most important task of the reconstruction of society and economy with a sense of social commitment. Faith in the destiny of nation. Teaching of social studies aims at developing a faith in the minds of the students in the destiny of our nation in terms of promoting a spirit of tolerance and assimilation and peace and harmony among the people of the world. Development of insight into human relations. Social studies is intended to help pupils to develop an insight into human relationships, social values, and attitudes. Effective participation in social affairs. Social studies enables the growing children to participate effectively in the affairs of the community, to state, the country, and the world at large. Promotion of fields enriched in the Constitution. Social studies promotes the values and ideas of humanism, secularism, socialism, and democracy. Maximization of economic and social welfare. Social studies inculcates attitudes and skills for maximization of economic and social welfare. Promotion of peace. Social studies inculcates attitudes and imparts the knowledge necessary for the achievement of the principal values of a just world order. Profitable use of leisure time. Social studies affords opportunities to the students to develop such interests that will enable them to use their leisure properly. Foundation of specialization. Social studies provides a pattern and experience of study that will serve a foundation for specialization at a later stage of education of the students. At the early stages, students are made familiar with elementary knowledge of various disciplines. Many-sided development of the personality. The primary objective of social studies is to develop an appreciation of 3 R's: right, responsibilities, and relationships. Social studies aims at developing qualities like clearness of thought, intellectual conscience, courage, love of truth, initiative, self-reliance, spontaneity, tolerance, unbased attitude, etc., which go a long way in the development of a well-balanced personality. Physically strong, intellectually mature, emotionally stable, and socially efficient. Why formulation of objectives? The formulation of educational objectives is needed for a variety of reasons. Teaching of social studies. The educational objectives provide the desired direction to educational activities, determine the nature of educational activities, provide a basis for systematizing or planning an educational program, decide the points of emphasis in an educational activity, give unity and coherence to an educational program, provide the basis for the measurement of growth and thus guarantee valid evaluation, help distinguish between various aspects of learning, help focus attention on proper attributes of teaching and evaluation, help grade learning experiences and also evaluation material, help maintain a balance between different aspects of an educational program, help fix priorities in an educational program, guide educational decisions in curricular or co-curricular areas, guide in the selecting of relevant content, guide improvements in education, give meaning to and clarify the structure and content of curriculum, help making and learning functional, help articulate learning at various levels, help discover or evolve proper learning situations, help define educational processes, help make the intangibles in education tangible, help identify weakness and strengths of pupils in learning, facilitate communication among educational workers, aims and values differentiated. Sometimes attempts are made to differentiate aims and values of teaching a subject. Aims are considered as conscious purposes and goals. Value, on the other hand, are the outcome or results achieved after teaching according to these aims. Aims are ideals which are not based on experiments. Values spring as a result of experimentation or after putting aims into practices. Values are based on reality and the aims on philosophical considerations. Values of teaching social studies are social learning, training in social skills, training in social standards, training in understanding social problems, training in understanding and social changes, training in bringing about desirable social changes, training in developing social attitudes, training in developing a sense of belonging. In fact, it is very difficult to draw a line of distinction between one value and the other. All are complementary and supplementary. Aims and objectives of teaching languages with social studies. Anticipated outcomes of the teaching of social studies. The general objectives have been further broken down in anticipated outcomes in more specific terms. The anticipated outcomes are laid in terms of the following: understandings, desirable attitudes, essential skills. Understandings. The subject of social studies is a contained subject, and as such it abounds in facts. It is therefore very necessary to highlight or draw attention to the more significant facts, generalizations and principles, commonly known as understandings. For instance, a child that practices good manners and habits is loved by all, both at home and school. Orman has to depend upon communities far away for satisfying his daily needs. Are the understandings that one has to develop through the lessons on good manners or national and international trade respectively. If our teaching is not to result in mere transmission of unrelated and isolated facts, it is an important task of the teacher to help the child to receive various facts in their proper perspective or in their relative importance. It should be the endeavor of the teacher to help the children in developing important concepts of understandings by providing them enough experiences in and outside the class. It has been a common experience that properly developed concepts and understandings are retained longer in our minds than the host of unrelated and unorganized facts that are memorized for the purpose of examinations. Understandings include the following: making the child understand his environment so as to enable him to adjust better with his social and cultural environment, enabling the child understanding social concepts to family, community, state and nation, enabling the child understand the world around him, enabling the child develop an appreciation of social change, enabling the child know the progress of society from primitive to the advanced stage, acquainting the child about men's ways of living, his significant achievements and the problems that he faces today, acquainting the child with social institutions, helping the child understand how far geographical conditions influence in molding the growth of the society in different parts of the world, helping the child learn about vocational activities and opportunities. Teaching of social studies with languages. Desirable attitudes. An attitude is a feeling developed towards an object or a person or a group or anything else. These attitudes last through a lifetime. The facts that a child learns in the video may be forgotten, but these attitudes linger and mold his behavior pattern for all that is to follow. The child may forget the facts he learned about the duties of a policeman or the postman, but the feeling of friendliness he gained for these public officials will remain for life. The development of these desirable attitudes and appreciation is an important aspect of any education. The attitudes, appreciations, and habits are indesirable part of the personality of an individual. All agree that it is the attitudes that matter more than anything else in the behavior of the person. The development of the attitude is, however, not to be attempted as a separate item by lecturing or preaching. It should be the natural outcome of all the discussions and activities carried on by the lessons. They are developed unknowingly. It is often said that attitudes are caught and not taught. The teacher should therefore be conscious of this aspect and reflect proper attitudes through his disposition and behavior so that they are rightly adopted by the children under his charge. Desirable attitudes imply developing attitudes to assume social and civic responsibility and thus making the child an activity participant and an enlightened individual. Developing activities to act in accordance with democratic principles and values. Developing attitudes of personal responsibility, civic and well-mindedness, emotional maturity, intellectual integrity, aesthetic appreciation and suspended judgment. Developing attitudes of patriotism, cooperation and tolerance. Developing attitudes to appreciate the viewpoints of others and making one's own contribution. Assertional skills. The development of assertional skills in every child should be an equally important outcome of the teaching of social studies in schools. The skills may pertain to various subject areas. For instance, it may be reading and making, building a time chart of observing and handling apparatus such as thermometer or a rain gauge. Another category of skills refers to his ability to communicate with others. This may include asking questions, telling a story, addressing a meeting, presenting a report, or dramatizing an event. Then there are the intellectual skills. This may include an ability to distinguish between a fact and an opinion, shifting data to arrive at conclusions or judgments. Similarly, social skills may include ability to work with a group and to seek cooperation from other members. Development of basic skills includes as follows: helping the child development critical and scientific thinking and sense of time, helping the child inculcate the social skills to interpret printed, pictured and charted material, to place people, events and institutions in time, space and importance, to use words of social, cultural and economic significance correctly, to understand and interpret significant data, and to compare, contrast, summarize, generalize and criticize them. Skills in social studies learning. Meaning of a skill. James High of the University of California has stated, a skill is the wherewithal to gain an end. In social studies, this is to learn the facts, generalizations and formulation of social relations. The skill of relationship is the ability to get along well and benefit from democratic social organization. It is the responsibility of every social studies teacher to develop and devote considerable time and effort to the matter of increasing his students' use of skills and to introduce them to new ones. Apart from the motor and the social skills needed from achievement in social studies, movement in reading, vocal organs in speech, getting along with others, There is another group of skills which is of primary importance in social studies. Professor Charles A. Beard has analyzed these skills as under: skill in methods of obtaining access to information, use of libraries and institutions, use of encyclopedias, handbooks, documents, sources, authorities, statistical collections, etc. Skill in the sifting of the materials and the discovery and determination of authentic evidence in the use of primary sources. Skill in the observation and description of contemporary occurrences in the school and community. Skill in methods of handling information in analysis, breaking down large themes or masses of data into manageable units and penetrating to irreducible elements in synthesis, combining elements, drawing inferences and conclusions, and comparing with the previous conclusions and inference, logical and systematic organization in the chart making and graphic presentation. Teaching of social studies. Skill in memorizing results of study with consciousness of application to new situations by exact reference and analogy. Skill in scientific method, inquiring spirit, patience, weighing evidence, tentative and precise conclusions. 8 principles for the achievement of skills. Penn, McCracken, Carpenter and Alice W. Spicy K. have suggested the following principles. For the acquisition and improvement of skills, the learning activity must focus on skill development. Skill development will not take place by chance. Experience designed to promote growth in skills must be meaningful to the learner. A certain skill must be accepted as important. Experience used in skill development must be geared to the maturation level of the learner. Just as 5-year-old cannot usually master the flowing script with a fountain pen, neither can a junior high school student be expected to achieve the same degree of skill in synthetic thought as a college professor. For the successful learning and retention of skills, repetitive practice is necessary. Reinforcement of learning is essential. Skills should be developed in connection with ongoing activities and not in isolation. Every social studies skill is in the and an integral part of the life equipment of the citizen. Development of different skills should go on simultaneously. There is a gradual and steady growth of all the parts of in the process of education. Evidence of skill development must be sought to changes in behavior. The whole purpose of education is to induce an improved behavior pattern. Provision for the systematic development of skills must be made through the school program. This is merely to re-emphasize the idea that skills begin with mastery of simple, uncomplicated steps and proceed to more complex and various patterns of activity. This principle is a summary of all the other 7. Evaluation and problems for discussion. Why should we have aims for the teaching of social studies? State the general objectives of teaching social students and students. Explain in brief the difference between objectives and values. Describe the anticipated outcomes of social studies in the terms of following: understandings, desirable attitudes, essential skills. Instructional objectives of social studies. Best principles of stating instructional objectives. Below are some of the basic principles to be kept in view while stating instructional objectives after they have been derived. The statement of an objective should include both the kind of behavioral outcome expected and be content. The former is sometimes called competence or modification of path. The term modification implies that it is at the level of the individual's behavior that the change occurs as a result of learning. Content, on the other hand, is the medium for the realization of the desired behavior. It does not acquire any direction unless it is harnessed to mental processes. It is the question of activating a product through the application of processes using various communication symbols. For example, summer monsoon is just an item of knowledge, but educationally it becomes meaningful only when he says the pupil explains the causes of the reversal of wind movement during the monsoon season. An objective should be conceived and stated in terms of pupils' behavior. Objectives should be worked out at the right level of generally so as to be neither so vague nor too so specific or atmospheric as to be non-functional. Complex or compound objectives need particular attention in this respect. Objectives should be stated non-compulsively so as to be avoid confusion, repetition and contradiction. Objectives in a list should not overlap. It may be helpful to group together similar objectives. Objectives should be so stated that there is a clear indication and even distinction among learning situations required for realizing different behavior changes. For example, learning situations for memorizing certain facts would be basically different from the ones needed for developing critical thinking. Objectives need to be conceived in terms of continuity of growth over a period. They should essentially be developmental in their purport, representing roads to travel rather than the terminal points. Worthwhileness of objectives should be carefully judged from various points of view, particularly their social acceptability. Objectives should be realistic. They should be attainable through available or procurable resources and testable through available or manipulable tools. Teaching of social studies. The list of objectives as a whole should be comprehensive enough to cover different outcomes expected of an educational program in the cognitive, affective and psychomotor domains. Specification of instructional objectives. The work of identifying well-defined behavioral changes requires that broader objectives should be broken down into more specific ones to a limit where they stand fully clarified and delimited. This step is often known as specifying objectives, and its product comes to be known as specifications. The specifications are thus the behavioral outcomes expected as a result of learning experience emanating from a learning situation. It is an exercise in meaningful analysis, a practical way of getting at the specifications of an objective is first to state the objective, comprehend what we mean by it, and then to seek answers to the question what the students will be able to do to exhibit to us the achievement of the particular objective on their part. The answers will be specifications. An example: objective: the pupil comprehends, understands the information represented on a daily weather chart. Specifications of the objective: to exhibit the achievement of the above objective, the pupil will be able to identify and discriminate between the different types of information given on the weather chart, translate symbolic representations into verbal descriptions, see relationship between isobaric forms and wind speed and direction, wind direction and precipitation, compare the information given on weather maps of different dates, recognize the prevailing trend of weather, explain a particular information depicted on the weather chart in the respect of its scope, and also understand consequent relationship, etc. Summarize the information represented on the map in verbal form, draw a simplified version of a given weather map, etc. in order to clearly visualize the relationship between objectives and pupils' activities. Let us for the while study the following table giving the activities and the corresponding objective that each can help achieve and try to learn some conclusions from it. Specification of instructional objectives of social studies: to acquire the knowledge, information of facts, terms, concepts, conventions, trends, principles, generalizations, assumptions, hypotheses, process, etc. in social studies. To develop an understanding of facts, terms, concepts. To apply the acquired knowledge of social studies and its understanding in unfamiliar situations. To acquire practical skills essentials for the study of social studies. To develop interest in the subject and problems related to social studies and political life of the people of the one's country and of those of the world. To develop desirable positive attitudes necessary for developing a broader outlook. Objective: to acquire the knowledge, information of facts, terms, concepts, conventions, principles, generalizations, assumptions, hypotheses, problems, processes, etc. in social studies. Specification of the objective: to demonstrate the achievement of the above objective, the pupil recalls facts, terms, concepts, principles, trends, etc. Recognize facts, terms, concepts, principles, trend, etc. Instructional objectives of social studies: reads information from various forms of representation of data, maps, charts, diagrams, graphs, etc. To develop an understanding of facts, terms, concepts. Specification of the objective: to demonstrate the achievement of the above objective, the pupil discriminates, classifies, compares and contrasts, identifies relationships, detects the points of emphasis and the trends of arguments, cites illustrations, detects errors and fallacies and corrects them, explains, analysis or gives meaning of, or classifies or elucidates, gives reasons or advances arguments, interrupts data presented in different forms. To apply the acquired knowledge and its understanding to unfamiliar situations. Specifications of objectives: to demonstrate the achievement of the above objectives. The pupil analyzes the unfamiliar situations or problems and finds out what is given and what is required. Recalls knowledge relevant to the situation. Judges are sufficiency and insufficiency, adequacy or inadequacy of data or any other evidence for solving the problem. Establishes relationships, suggests an alternative methods for solving a particular problem. Selects the most appropriate method of attack. Draws inferences and makes generalizations. Makes predictions regarding the problem outcome of given situation. Teaching of social studies. Objective: to acquire practical skills essential for the study of social studies. Specification of the objective: to demonstrate the achievement of the above objective. The pupil draws maps, charts, tables, diagrams, graphs, etc. from the given of data. Translate the data from one form of presentation to another, prepare models. Objective: to develop interest in the subject and problems related to the civic and political life of the pupil of one's country and of those of the world. Specification of the objective: to demonstrate the achievement of above objective. The pupil voluntarily studies literature related to the social studies and tries to know about the inherent issues and problems. Spends leisure in trying to know about civic problems and issues and excels in finding solutions to them. Closely observes civic and political processes and changes at local and national and international levels. Discusses and is able to communicate various aspects of everyday civic problems and their implications. Enthusiastically participates in excursions, visits and field trips to places of civic and political activities, panchayats, municipalities, assemblies. Enjoys attending the participating in debates, symposium, discussions on civic and political problems. Enjoys writing articles and preparing pamphlets, brochures, etc. on topics related to social studies. Enjoys preparing display materials related to civic and political life events. Enjoys collecting information about other political systems and facts about other locations, religions and countries. Objective: to develop desirable positive attitudes necessary for developing a broader outlook. Specifications of the objective: to demonstrate the achievement of the above objective. The pupil reflects the views, opinions and problems of others, displays sympathy and fellow feeling towards them, shows tolerance, controls emotions and displays restraint, develops social awareness, is able to examine the present situations in the light of a historical perspective, develops a sense of social obedience, assumes responsibility in cooperative and civic activities, judges issues objectively and on their merits, displays abhorrence towards socio-economic malpractices like hoarding, profiteering, black marketing, smuggling, bribery for votes, etc. Shows sympathetic understanding of the problems of people belonging to different social, religious, linguistic and cultural groups. Realizes the importance of the contributions made by the leaders of the nation in different spheres. Develops a sense of respect for the national flag, the national anthem, the national emblem and the constitution of one's country and those of other countries of the world. Develops faith in democratic values. Evaluation and problems for discussion. State the basic principles of stating instructional objectives. Differentiate between general objectives and specific objectives of teaching social studies. Specify instructional objectives of teaching social studies.